Hey y'all, what is up? Keasbey here. So I've been on a bit of a slowdown for videos at the moment with a potential ban list around the corner. I wanted to take a step back and really script out a few ideas that, hopefully, will still all be relevant once that ban list hits. But this was just too fetch not to rush out to all y'all. Today we're going to be looking at a sort of follow-up to the Flowandereeze versus the Meta video with the deck that was missing from that video, Mathmech. And specifically, we are going to be taking on the @Ignister variant of it, which, astute viewers may know, has a monster as part of its main gameplay that is just slightly problematic for us. But before we get into the matchup, don't forget to drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel for even more, and if you want to help us out that little bit extra, check out the link in the description to pick yourself up a Keasbey TCG exclusive playmat designed by us just for the channel and Instagram. Everything from those goes a long way to helping us improve the channel. So now, let's just get right into the games. Alright, so game one, we are going to be going second. I'm going to be really candid about this right now. I'm not super familiar with the @Ignister lines for this deck, but I am familiar with the fact that they play a bunch of hand traps, which is kind of problematic for us. We have drawn none of our hand traps. I do know that Dimension Shifter is really good in this matchup. Unfortunately, we have missed it. So they're going to go into Ignister Island, which I do know is very key to their combos, and will let them eventually get to the Cyverse @Ignister, which I'm now realizing is going to be hitting the field and trying to figure out a way out for it. Depending on how big they make it, we have two potential outs, so let's see what they do. If anyone knows if this is standard or not, let me know in the comments, just a little curious. It feels like they did a very good job comboing off though, based on their end board. So I'm going to get a bunch of stuff back, make Wind Pegasus, which turns out has an on-field effect. Who knew? So they'll make both of those level 4, go into the Mathmech portion of the deck. This is the part I'm more familiar with. You know, every time I see Mathmech, I'm always so paranoid that Geo Mathmech Final Sigma's coming out, but something even worse hits the field in a rival Cyverse @Ignister. They're going to continue comboing off. Seeing that that's a 4K isn't overly problematic for us, but it's going to be difficult. And they're going to set to and pass, ending on Decode, Heat Soul, Talker. I think I said the name backwards, which every turn lets them draw a card. So they're going to fire that off to draw a card. We'll pull Feather Duster off the top. No reason not to just fire it off now before we start our combos. We actually got some very good hits with that. We're going to fire off Prosperity. We're going to grab Advent of Adventure here and see what we grab off Duality. Advent at least is protection and represents map if we don't pull it. But we pulled the map off the top. So now, basically the name of the game is we want to spam as many monsters onto the field as possible, get all our birds in rotation as fast as possible, and try to set up to prevent them from going even further into their own deck. Kind of a tall order, but we're going to go for it. So we're going to get greedy here and go for the double M-Pen. We haven't seen Interruption yet. Our opponent also was holding a Ghost Ogre, but they opted to hold it and not hit the map with it. I'm assuming that they figured we couldn't put up anything that would be a threat to the Arrival, which is true at the moment. So we're going to banish that out just to get rid of a little bit of follow-up play for the next turn. We'll grab back the M-Pen, get a second search for Unexplored Winds. We're going to get over the Heat Soul Talker. We'll just banish the extra Eaglin to get over it. And we will completely forget about the Wind Pegasus @Ignister, and it will spin back the map, which isn't overly tragic. But we should have been paying attention to that, unfortunately. So they're going to go straight to battle phase. An interaction I really want to point out is, despite the fact that the Arrival Cyverse @Ignister is unaffected by other cards, M-Pen doesn't affect monsters on the field, it affects the other player, disallowing them from being able to activate monster effects of special summon monsters in attack mode. So under M-Pen, Arrival Cyverse, despite being unaffected by everything, cannot activate its effect to destroy a monster. So our opponent is going to go to end phase. We kind of unfortunately have to take this chance to start playing. I kind of figure they might not have anything or much of anything if they're just trying to go straight to end phase and not set anything. But we can't really let them have that extra turn. We have to rush out as much monsters as we can. So we're going to do that here. And we're going to try to establish Apex Avian as well to insulate our plays on our own turn. So we'll grab the DD Crow for follow-up later, and unfortunately now they are going to start playing. So we're going to let this resolve, probably a mistake, but now I'm kind of figuring if they have a normal summon, that's also a problem. We're going to try to hit it with Apex Avian. I'm also thinking too, a lot of what they can do isn't really problematic because we have M-Pen locking out all the Link monsters, and a lot of this deck is Link monsters. Unfortunately, it didn't matter what we decided to Apex Avian, it was always going to be met with that hard-held Ghost Ogre. So they're going to get to go off. Fortunately, again, we are locking them out of Link monsters. Unfortunately, they are going to make a rank 4 in defense position and blow up the M-Pen, starting us from basically 0 again. We are going to reactivate map here. We're in a slightly better position than we were before. We're just going to banish that out because we need to banish something, and we are slowly running out of targets. We're going to get that off the field to put another M-Pen out. So with M-Pen, we're just going to grab another Advent. Street, we're actually going to banish Dreaming Town so we can recover it. It's going to be very important to our plays because we need to just basically end their turn with 5 monsters on field to pull this off. We're going to be hit with Nibiru here. We're going to activate Advent. It will give us a smaller token, but the size of the token isn't relevant because the arrival at Ignister can just blow it up no matter what. This is just to get the M-Pen banished for easier recovery at this point. We did search Barrier Statue, which could have prevented it, but we want to save Barrier Statue for if our opponent redoes what they did in the previous turn, where they wait until their second main phase to start doing plays. We can lock them out, and Barrier Statue will be safe at that point from being run over, and we can very easily reestablish the M-Pen from being banished with the Toucan, and that will protect it from the Arrival Cyberside Ignister's effect to blow it up. So we get a chunky Nibiru. We're going to fire off the duality at this point that we set as bait, and we are going to unfortunately misclick. We meant to grab the Called by the Grave here. We grabbed the Terraforming instead by accident. Thankfully, it's not going to come up, so like I said, they're just going to blow that up. They're going to get a token, and unfortunately, we can't afford to fire the Dreaming Town off now, but that lets them establish a Lingaribo, which is a problem, because that can negate our Dreaming Town. So we're kind of at the mercy of whatever they do in main phase 2. Fortunately, we do have the DD Crow to answer this, so we will survive this turn with 400 life points left total. They're going to start comboing off here. They're going to move the Lingaribo off the field. So now we have a little bit of leeway because this has an activation cost to get itself back on the field, so we can respond with Dreaming Town when they activate this, and that will allow us to get our Dreaming Town through before this hits the field again. So we're going to wait as long as we possibly can before firing off the Dreaming Town. Fortunately, our opponent will normal summon, which will allow us to start off. So this is going to basically be a play to get as much on the field as possible. We grabbed Ryza here. Not sure why it's not loading the image. Oh, there it goes. So we're going to grab back the M-Pen, grab the Rabina. With the M-Pen, we're going to tribute over the Nibiru just because it's big. Again, we can't tribute over the Arrival Cyberside Ignister with wins because it is unaffected by everything. So we're going to summon the Rabina here. We'll just get a random search. And we will end on Barrier Statue. And again, it is protected because Arrival Cyberside Ignister cannot activate its effect. Our opponent has an Effect Veiler in hand and is essentially locked out of continuing their plays. This turn is going to get wild. Let's watch. So the first thing we have to do here, by the way, Dimension Shifter was the best possible top deck we could have hoped for here. We have to make Wind Charmer first so that we can get our Barrier Statue off the field. This is why Wind Charmer is back in the deck. We're actually going to grab their monster back because we can, and we're going to make a Selene. Selene, we are going to go ahead and make the Dimension Shifter special summon itself, and we're going to grab Access Code with 5300 attack. Unfortunately, on resolution of Access Code, they are going to Effect Veiler, removing its attack boost. You might think we have no means of getting over the Arrival Cyberside Ignister, but if you noticed, we have not normal summoned or used map, and we have 2 potential normal summons in hand. We're going to fire off map. Now remember, we cannot activate any bird's effects because we have special summoned at this point. And we're going to use our game mechanic normal summon for the turn. We now have 4 disposable monsters. Our opponent has a wonderful 5th monster to donate to our Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. She's going to on-summon, negate everything's effect. Our opponent's going to protect with that to get away from some damage. But fortunately from this point, Underworld Goddess has some decent protection on herself. Access Code will come alive again next turn, and I will be able to start popping whatever needs to be popped. And M-Pen is on the field, which will lock out the effects of any Link monsters our opponent summons. We're in a very good position here. We are going to fire off Unexplored Winds to try to cycle the Ryza out, hopefully for an enemy controller. Unfortunately, we are going to get Mystic Mine instead, which doesn't help us here. Our opponent's going to pull a Forbidden Chalice off the top, which is not going to be enough, and they will surrender. Whew, what a last turn. Alright, let's go to games 2 and 3. Okay, so for game 2, we are going second. Our opponent has opened the Mathmech portion of the deck. They're going to start going off, and again, not super familiar with the Ad Ignister stuff, as I mentioned, but they're going to get to it and start doing all that stuff. So we'll grab the Ignister stuff. They have drawn Nibiru again. I can't tell you the last time I was Nibiru'd with this deck. That was wild. And 2 Forbidden Chalices, which is a problem for us. Our opponent also, now knowing that we can access code, is going to set up this game, spoilers, with a 6k arrival at Ignister. Basically telling us, okay, make Goddess or lose the game. So again, standard at Ignister stuff, I believe. And here it comes, 6k attack and a Forbidden Chalice set with a Nibiru in hand. We are not in a good position. So we kind of very, very much have to high roll this hand. We're going to make some questionable plays in the name of just trying to gather as much resources as fast as possible. We're going to pass on the Mystic Mine here. I don't know if my opponent has spell trap removal in their deck, but I'm going to assume if they're going up against a Flowandereeze deck, they probably sided some in. And again, we need to get our resources up as fast as possible, so we will have more monsters than them. We pulled the map off the top. And we're going to get very greedy here. We're going to fire off an early Advent of Adventure to get another M-Pen. And we should have really searched Stree here. Unfortunately, we searched Toucan. Again, we got very, very much way too greedy. Kind of out of necessity, but maybe a little greedier than we should have gotten. So we are going to set Dreaming Town and pass, which was kind of the reason we were letting ourselves get so greedy, because we knew that, or we thought we would at least be able to play in our opponent's turn. Unfortunately, we don't know about that second Forbidden Chalice tucked away in their hand. So we are going to start attempting to play here, and we are going to get hit with the Chalice. And from here, our opponent is going to very quickly end this game. So again, unfortunately, we had to do kind of a lot of somewhat questionable plays just out of needing to get to the Underworld Goddess, but it didn't work out for us. And our opponent also was holding an effect vill or two, which just would not have helped. So we'll surrender here, seeing that they're about to special summon out something to go for lethal. So for game 3, we will be going first, and unfortunately this is kind of going to be an exercise in side decking well and getting lucky. We are going to rip the Anti-Spell Fragrance off the top over the Featherstorm, because essentially M-Pen is a Featherstorm against a lot of this deck. But wouldn't you know it, we're going to find the Featherstorm anyway. At this point also, the Barrier Statue is going to be kind of superfluous to our combo as long as we can get to the M-Pen. And we have the M-Pen at this point. Only a Gamma will stop us. They don't have the Gamma. We are going to establish Apex Avian on the field as well, just to prevent anything like a Lightning Storm or not a Lightning Storm, I'm sorry, a draw phase quick play spell trap removal. And we will set Dreaming Town, Anti-Spell, and Featherstorm. And from here, we are in a position to repeatedly loop the Featherstorm using Ryza. It won't get to that point, but that was ultimately the game plan. We're going to fire off the Anti-Spell here, and our opponent will activate that. And on activation of Sigma, we will Featherstorm, and that will be the game. Alright, so that was Flowandereeze versus Mathmech. We missed Dimension Shifter all 3 games, which is very, very good in this matchup since they are so graveyard dependent. Barrier Statue, also very good in this matchup, but you only really saw that come into play in game 1 in kind of a way that was just to stem the bleeding at that point and allow us to set up for that absurd turn there. So really, the name of this video is, don't forget that you have an extra deck, because sometimes you really do need it. Unfortunately, the game 2 and game 3 were both kind of quick. Our opponent was very smart game 2 in saying, make Goddess or lose, and it kind of made us play in a very weird way that made our plays very fragile. So, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for even more, And if you want to help us out a little bit extra, don't forget about the Keasbey TCG exclusive playmats at the link in the description. And I will catch you all later.